And I think we are, yep, I think we're live.
Awesome.
Hey everyone, FusionEd coming at ya. And today here at the SVVR office, where we're going to do a stream for Windlands. And also going to be talking about the Udacity VR Nanodegree. So if you have any questions, post those in the chat. But we have here Hassan, who joined us last time. He's playing what we're basically going to be building. And yeah, I'm going to give this up to Brian, who's going to give you guys an intro about SVVR and what they do.
Hey guys, Brian here to SVVR. Welcome you guys back to and FusionEd back here at our lab, so to speak. If you guys don't know what SVVR is, we started off as a meetup group, but now we've grown into this organization that loves VR developers, VR investors, anything that happens to involves VR. We love you guys. If you guys don't follow us, join us on Twitter, twitter.com/SVVR2016, and yeah, we'd love to have you. So
yeah, you can go ahead and post that Twitter handle, I guess, in the chat.
Okay.
If you want.
But yeah, take it
there. And yeah, if you want to actually hop back in, because I didn't actually add a spawning mechanic to this, but we'll basically show what's going on here. Let me actually go ahead and maximize this. The classic glasses.
Yeah. Keeping my vision not too bad.
So, alright, so basically what we have here is Abdo has created, and he's in the chat, and you can talk to him about that, but he's created this like beautiful island scene, and all you do is you point your trigger at whatever you want to pull, and then you start swinging around. And it's kind of very much like Windlands, and almost has that Spiderman feel. The idea, what we tried to go with the theme, is that you're kind of playing in the sky with this lightning as you're swinging grips. And that's what you're seeing Hassan do right there. And yeah, you just kind of swing around like a monkey.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, monkey, whatever you want to go for. So that's kind of the basic idea of what we're going to build, and it's not terribly complicated. So,
It feels great.
But you heard it from him. I will say, I'll say the one thing is it could potentially get you motion sick, but there are tricks you can do, especially with shrinking the field of view when you're swinging around. I haven't implemented it here because I didn't feel too bad when I actually was playing around with it, but it's definitely not for everyone. I think you definitely have to have your VR legs if you're following along and actually want to have something like this where there is some sort of acceleration that you don't necessarily feel in your head. But yeah, shall we get to it then?
Yeah, sure, dude. I almost like don't want to.
That's when you know it's good. When you never want to leave, that's when it's good. All right, so let's hop in here, and Hassan's going to be in the chat with you guys as well. So if you have any questions, put them there for me, and then I'll also have the chat open. But just if you have anything about what we're building, about projects you're working on, about pretty much anything about the Udacity Nanodegree, put them there. I'm happy to answer. But other than that, we can just go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead, create a new project. Let's call this Windlands Livestream.
I'm gonna chat too, so if there's any questions.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, Brian's also there, so you can hit up any of these guys, and that's really cool. So let's go ahead and put that on the desktop. And I should also mention, if you want to follow along, there are assets on our website. There's a link in the description if you want to go ahead and download those. And yeah, I think they're awesome assets, and props to Abdo for that, because I don't know, I really like them. But just going to do some quick setup here now that we have a new project. Go to the asset store and get the Steam VR plugin. And I guess while we're doing that, if there's anything that pops up to discuss, I'm happy to go over that. But just kind of the standard stuff here. Steam VR plugin, go ahead and import that. And then we'll also go ahead and get the assets from accept. Of course I made the right choice, and then we'll also go ahead get the assets from there somewhere. I can't remember where I saved them. They are, I think, in here. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. And just, oh right, no, I have to extract it. Let's go ahead and extract it. Cool. And we should have, there it is. Clouds and lightning. Drag and drop that in. Takes a second to upload. And once we have that, we can just drag that into our scene, and we pretty much we have the whole scene there. And for the most part, like, this is what we're going to be using. So that's really cool. It's just kind of one drag and drop thing, and we got a beautiful scene pretty much to scale exactly how we need it. Next thing, what we want to do is just go ahead, get rid of that main camera, go to Steam VR, go to prefabs, and drag the camera rig in. We can just move that. I'm just going to put it in the water for now, which is probably, it's the same place where I started it in the demo scene that you saw earlier, but get that around here. And yeah, that's basically setting up the scene how we want it. We'll come back to it once we start writing the script, which is basically what's going to allow us to control that swinging motion. And then pretty much all we have to do is like start putting in the physics. And for that, really what we're going to need to do is just select all of the meshes. So each of these has a mesh renderer component on it. So we can go ahead and just, I've already typed this in actually, it's just add a mesh collider. And that's what's going to allow us to actually like land on these islands and float through the sky. So that's really cool. I'm just going to go ahead and save the scene right now. Let's call this island scene. Sure, why not? And once we have that, we can just kind of get into writing our first script. So basically for this, what we're going to start with is take the controllers and just point them at objects and draw a line from them. Then once we have that, we can go ahead and then add in the physics for the actual swinging. So it's just kind of a two-step process there. And we'll do this all in the same script. So create C# script. Let's call this lightning. Sure, let's just call it lightning, for lack of a better term. Obviously, if you're actually naming your script, you might want to have a more descriptive name. But for the purpose of the live stream, I think that's more than enough there. So we're going to need a couple things. First thing is going to be our actual controller that we want to have a reference to. And this is going to be our Steam VR tracked object controller. Go ahead and do that. And then we're also going to want a reference to a line renderer. So this is going to be basically what we use to draw our line from where the controller is to wherever we're trying to actually grab onto. So let's go ahead and just call that line. So once we have those set up, we can just go ahead, jump into extras, because I can never, I don't know, I always forget this, but like,
What's up?
it's this input scheme for figuring out when the trigger is pulled. I can never remember that line.
Yeah, it's just a lot of syntax.
It's just so much syntax. I'm just like, I'm just gonna copy it because, and I use it a lot. That's the thing, and I still can't remember it.
Yeah, but it's like something dot something dot something.
Yeah,
else.
it's like get a reference to your device, and then once you do that, get the get touchdown event, which is different from the get press down event, which is kind of silly. Well, I mean, there's a point to that. The point being, like, when you have we should talk about Brian, actually, you should talk about the Steam VR controllers from.
Oh yeah, right.
Like,
yeah, so
tell them like how awesome those are.
yeah,
Did you get to try them?
Yeah, I went to Steam
What?
Dev Days. It was last week. Wow, that didn't feel like too long ago. But yeah, I got to try the live controllers. They were prototypes, of course. But what was awesome was, so they kind of wrap around your hands like this, and so you can actually grab things in the environment and not let go of the controllers, which
So
was
nice.
kind of weird but awesome to feel. So they used Call of the Starseed as the demo, and so the environment was purely you would just pick stuff up. And
Yeah.
so what was cool is
So nice.
the thing that's in your hand, it's an analog. From what I understand, it's an analog digitizer. Well, I don't know if that makes sense. Basically, it can actually detect how much you're grabbing something.
Gosh.
So it's great.
What?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, keep your eyes for that.
Those same finger detection is a possibility.
Pretty much, yeah. And you know, I personally think that it potentially might be better than the touch, but it is a prototype, so we're not sure what it's going to be. The final form is going to be just yet.
So the fact that the prototype is better than the touch says something, I think.
So but yeah, keep an eye out for that. And it's exciting stuff. It's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, now I'm pumped. Like
Yeah,
the fact that you can actually like physically grab
You
things.
need to
like,
get one.
We need to get one. We need to get our hands on one. It's like now I wanna experience it because I think that would be so cool. And yeah, let us know if you have any questions about that also, because I think we have people who have actually tried it out before here, so that's super exciting. But yeah, I guess that's once those get into the ecosystem, we'll start seeing various methods here: get press down, get touch down, get grip down, whatever. I'm curious to see how the API changes for that.
Yeah.
But for right now, we're just going to use get touchdown, which is just going to detect when we pull the trigger. And once we do that, all we're going to do is just say line dot, if I can remember, set position. So if we just scroll over this, so set position takes two parameters, the index. So basically the way a line renderer works is you have a line, or I guess you have a coordinate system, and you can define as many points as you want along that, and then just draw as lines between all of those points. And you can specify width, you can specify the material, you can specify a bunch of different parameters, and I'll pull it up in the inspector in just a bit so that you can see it. But for right now, all we really need is just 2 points, which is going to be the point at which the controller is, and then the point at which you actually hit something. So let's just start with the point at which where the controller is, which is, we already know that. So that's just specifically controller dot transform dot position. So that's the real world position, and that's basically where we want to start. And then the second thing, and we'll need to add the physics component into this, is basically we want to detect where we hit an object in the world by pointing our controller at it. And so before we do that, let's actually just jump into a line render and just kind of show what that looks like. So for this, I'm just going to select both of these. Those are our controllers right there, and we're going to add a line renderer component onto it. And so you see there's a bunch of properties here. You can cast shadows, receive shadows. I don't know what this actual motion vectors thing is. Whoops. You can assign materials, which is what we're going to do for the lightning. And then there's the positions here, which is exactly what we're doing in the script, which is set the positions for our element 0, element 1, and that's where it draws the line. And actually, if we like zoom into this, you'll see it right here. This is our 0, 0, 0, and that's a line going from 0, 0 to, I think, 0, 0, 0, 1. So that's what's getting rendered right here. So that's what's happening there. We can also set in a few parameters, or like tell it whether or not to use world space and lighting. So pretty much all of that stuff gets set right there. And so then the next part is, now once we have this line render, and let's also actually go ahead and, while we're here, just add our lightning script and assign references. So on the left one, we're going to add our left controller. We're also going to add our line render. And same deal on the right one. So add the tracked object and line render there. So now that we have that in place, we can jump back into our script, and we're going to need to do our raycast. So for our raycast, what we're going to do is we're going to create a ray, and we'll actually call this, actually we don't need an array, and I'll say the reason why. Because the raycast method is actually, it allows you to say the position you start from the ray and the direction you go, which is basically what a ray does. So you can just supply that information and avoid having to create a separate object for it. But either way works, doesn't really matter. So go ahead, create the ray, and then here what we're going to do is if physics dot raycast. So if we do a raycast, then what we want to do is we're going to provide it the 3 parameters, which is the position of which the ray starts, the position it goes to, and the output of that, which it goes into our hit variable that we just created. So that's going to be from controller.transform.position, controller.transform.forward, and and then out it. So that's basically what's going on here. Is we basically say if we hit anything, which is what the raycast returns back to us, then we're gonna add in our changes to the line render. So that's going to be specifically, let's go ahead and put this set position here, the line set position to 1, and instead of the controller's transform dot position, we're going to go ahead and do hit dot point. So that's the specific point in our gigantic 3D world where we actually hit something. So at this point, we can basically go ahead and test this out. So let's go ahead and do that. You have the controller somewhere?
Oh yeah,
I would have been charging. Nice.
just looking up some links that we can show about like the motion peripheral.
Oh yeah, because that's important. So in theory, there we go. So if we now press pretty much anywhere that there's a collider on the space, we can draw a line to it, and that's just whenever I press something. So I think there's also a set limit on them. You'll see it's kind of wonky with like me moving my head around this thing, because line renders are billboarded, which basically means that they're always facing in the direction of the camera, and create some wonky effects. Yeah, I guess you can see it on the stream also. as I like move left and right. It's not that big of a deal like when you're actually moving around, but like when you're static like that and you're like kind of examining spaces, like it gets kind of weird.
Those words are tough.
And yeah, I mean, when we did the tilt brush tutorial a while back, what we basically had to not use line renders because otherwise you get this weird billboard effect that I didn't like at all. So yeah, so at this point we're drawing lines, and now we kind of want to update them as we basically are moving around. So for that, what we need to do is actually, let's just copy this, go ahead, and good old Visual Studios, deleting my brackets. That always annoys me. So let's go ahead, just format this up a little bit better. Get touch. And so now what we're doing, instead of get touch down, we're doing get touch. And now basically what that does is it detects whenever you're holding down the trigger but you haven't let go yet. So you first get the get touch down event, then you get a get touch if I'm still holding it, and then I'll get a get touch up afterwards. And for this we won't be using get touch up, but you can if you want to. But specifically the reason we want to use get touch is we want to change this position. Every time we're still holding it, we want to change it so it's like mapped to our controller. So we can go ahead and do that, and we're just updating that in real time. We also, while we're here, I'm also just going to add our else condition, which basically we only want to show our line render whenever we've actually hit something. So what we're going to do is specifically have it default to off, and then when we hit something, we'll turn it back on. So in here, what we're going to do is set enabled equals true, and also like feel free to stop me like anytime like there are questions or anything. All right, cool. And so here set it to false, and get touch is basically we're just going to update it. And the nice thing here is we're updating the position, even if we haven't actually drawn anything, but we won't actually see it. So that's really cool. So now that we have that set up, I'm going to format this here because I don't like the formatting. It's one of those small little nitpicky things, but now that we have this in place, we can now go in and see where exactly we are drawing our line. So let's go ahead and try that out. So now we'll see it maps exactly to where our controller is, because it's only when we do get touch. And if I let go, then we don't see it. It's basically, yeah. I don't know if there are meshes. I don't know if there are mesh colliders on those trees. Something I didn't actually check.
I think there are on some, but I'm not sure if those ones have any.
Yeah, that's small little debug details, but yeah. So at this point, it like maps correctly there. And yeah, you have sometimes want to pull towards the tree, sometimes not. In general, I don't know. What did you like swinging on, the clouds or the?
Everything. I spent so much time thinking about what it would be like to be Spiderman that I enjoyed all of it. But the clouds probably are the best.
Yeah.
Because they're like separated from everything.
Yeah. Cool. So we have that working, and for the most part, let's at this point, I think I want to add in. Let's like finish all the aesthetics, and then we can add in the physics. And like this is just like that kind of iterative process of like get it working in one space, then another space, then another space, and I think it's one of the best parts about VR. I think it's just like being able to debug as you go along, and then you like it's like yes, I'm getting closer. It's like that's always a win there. So let's go ahead. We have this lightning texture that's also part of the asset pack. We're gonna go into here, drag and drop that in, and we'll just make sure alpha is for transparency. We've got to make sure that's enabled, and then you'll see here in the preview that there's the checkered pattern, I guess, that's on the bottom, and that basically allows us to know that that's actually transparent. So once we have that, we're actually just gonna go ahead and create a material here. Let's call it create material, rope, and let's make sure this is set to unlit, transparent. And the reason we're going for unlit transparent is because we don't need lighting affecting it. It's kind of its own its own emissive type of material, I guess, or like it'll always look the same because it's kind of we're going for that lightning style where it looks bright. And so now that we have that material set up, we can go into our controller left, controller right, and just assign that right there. Let's just go ahead and drag that in, and if we forget, so these, yeah, there it is. All right, so there it is. That's the material we're using, and so we can, what we're actually going to do here really quick is just disable them because we don't need them right away. Especially like for the whole system to work, we're only activating it when we pull the trigger, and then we're turning it off when we let go of the trigger. So that sets up that. We know the material works. The other thing that I think is a really cool effect to do, and let's get the script, is basically whenever we are updating the material, we're just going to have it move in, look like it's moving. So actually, let me just go ahead and turn back one of those back on. So here we go. So on most materials, you'll have a tiling, especially texture-based materials, you'll have a tiling and you'll have an offset. So tiling is how often this specific texture is going to loop over the course of your material, and the offset is how much do you want to offset and loop that texture. So specifically here, I think it's probably easier to show rather than tell what's going on. So if I like move it to 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, you'll see that it's like kind of looping in that fashion, in that same fashion. We can set it back down to 0 here, but what we can do is actually use that to our advantage to create this like kind of animated looking thing. And I think the really neat part is even though it's looping, and we'll add a little randomness to it, but even though it's looping, it'll still kind of feel like it's completely random how it actually looks. And I think that's a really cool part about it. So let's go ahead and do that with this. So specifically here, line.material dot set offset, or let me type in offset, main texture offset. So that's the thing what we're going to use, and we're going to say that this equals new vector 2 for line.material main texture offset here, and this one's actually, we'll use the y as 0, and main texture offset set to, I think I use 0.05 f. So we're gonna keep manually moving it forward. And so if we sorry, this is offset.x. That's why it's complaining at me. So we're just going to keep moving it forward, and it's going to keep looping. Like for here, like you can go higher than actually 1.5. Like it'll keep looping. That's the really cool part about it. Like we don't even have to mod anything. You can in rare cases where you're like go over. I'd imagine this is like a float, so it's 32-bit. Could be a double, but like I could see like random cases where you like go like above the limits of the float, and then that causes it to crash basically. So to avoid that, you could mod it, but we're not gonna get near that at all. So we can do that. We can also, what I liked and what you saw in the demo was you can do a random.range here. You can go from like negative 0.01 f to say 0.05 f, and that adds that extra random flavor to it. So it's like sometimes going back and forth, but you'll see that the average here is primarily 0.04 f forward. So it's constantly moving forward, but it'll still like have some little jerks every so often that'll add to that flavor. I think that's a really cool effect to add into it. Now let's actually go ahead and see that right now. That's so cool that like they'll also see it in the background. Yeah. Yeah, actually, like if you want to like add that vignetting part in,
Yeah,
like
definitely going to it. I was looking up some like research links on it.
yeah, I think vignetting is like a really cool effect to add to like anything where you add acceleration. But yeah, I think where is it? All right, there's the mesh. You can see it's updating, and there's like this like every so often it'll like jitter a little bit to kind of give out that little extra lightning feel to it. But overall, it's still moving. Feels pretty random, as if I'm like holding on to things. And we're actually most of the way there with this. Like you can see, we have all of the aesthetics working. It's just now a matter of actually adding in the physics. And like physics to like some people might be a little hard. I still like there's some parts of it that are kind of confusing to me, but like for the most part, I think Unity's like abstracted them pretty well. And I'm sure I have a ton more to learn about physics. That physics is a never-ending field. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, so at this point we have the aesthetics working. So let's add in the physics. So specifically,
We also have some Udacity questions.
yeah, let's go for it. I think this is like a perfect time to
Yeah.
talk about that.
Nice. So the first one is launch date. Is that November 1st or?
So launch date. So we, I guess, have officially launched the first 3 courses. They're currently, you do have to pay the $200 a month fee to get access to them. There is a 7-day free trial, so you can actually just go in for the 7 days and like check it out and see if that's a fit for you. Currently, what we go over is basically just getting set up for Cardboard VR. Also, if you sign up, you get one of these nifty little guys. I really like these cardboards. They're super nice. But yeah, so if you sign up, you get access to one of those. And I think it's really right now what it's designed for is starting from ground zero and getting you to build your basic first functional mobile VR app.
I have
So,
a question.
Yeah.
How possible is it to sign up for the 7-day trial and then just marathon the whole thing?
You could do it. You can do the content we have there right now. You could do it in 7 days. Like the thing about the Udacity course is like the videos. I don't know the exact number of how many hours of video content we have up right now, but you could like you could get through that video content. I know we had someone who marathoned through all the videos in like probably 5 or 6 hours, skipping through it. But I think the real crunch of the content is in the actual projects that you have to do. The projects, I think, will take up a lot of your time, and that's where you're going to learn the most, because especially with VR, it's like you learn a lot by doing things. And like you'll have the mentorship and guidance like in the forums and for the first 3 projects to basically ask questions and learn as you're doing them, but like that's significantly where I think a lot of your time is going to be spent.
Next question is it for beginners or more experienced devs?
So right now, I touched on this a little bit, but it's right now primarily for beginners, because it is taking you from ground zero to building a modern apartment. That's what we have published right now. November 1st, we'll launch our scripting project, and I think for that, you're building a maze. So again, that's still like if you have some programming experience, like even that should be somewhat of a breeze for you. As we get further along our launch months, basically, like every month we're coming up with a course, and I think it's public what those actual launch dates are. I know we have them listed in the course somewhere, and I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be on the launch page. Let me know if they're not, because that's something we should fix. But basically, the idea is like it should get harder and harder, and like the concentrations will be pretty meaty. Um, and so we have like an Unreal concentration. So that's like if you want to learn Unreal, like that I think is starting from ground zero again to like learning Unreal and building an app for high immersion there. Same deal with Unity. We'll have a high immersion track for that, and that'll go a lot more in depth into specifics of like performance and issues like that. Same with mobile, and then we also have a media course. So those I think will be very, very VR specific and on the immediate level.
You just answered one of the questions. It was about Unity versus Unreal support.
Yeah, so I mean, so we start with Unity for like the first 5 courses. Like the foundations are all in Unity, and then concentrations, there will be an Unreal concentration, and then there's also going to be a lot more Unity specific stuff.
Here's another one. So mobile VR versus PC VR,
Mhm.
cardboard versus different platforms. What are the focuses?
So foundations, what we're doing is all mobile VR, and once you have the core foundations done, then the next step after that is there'll be concentration specific to high immersion, so PC and I guess Oculus and Vive. Then we'll also have, but then there are also mobile sites. So I think that's a preference to you of which path you want to go down. This is very much intended to be a VR Nanodegree and not a mobile VR or a PC VR or any specific track. It's supposed to like whatever path you want to go, like there's a path for you. Granted, like the first 5 are very focused on mobile because that's accessible to everyone, and we can touch on a lot of core foundations specifically, like getting you ramped up on Unity if you've never used it before, or like learning the very basics of scripting, or like basic design principles. Like that's we're going to use mobile for that focus, but beyond that, like you have a whole like you can choose.
There's another question.
Yep. Let's keep them going.
So this one, will you cover Daydream also?
The answer to that is we're still kind of planning that out. Granted, like we're using the Google VR SDK, so pretty much anything in the foundations that you use specific to Cardboard is also compatible with Daydream. And we're also talking with Google right now on like what are I mean like because none of us, like me included, have never used Daydream before, so we're also in this like learning process of like, well, what exactly makes sense to teach about Daydream. So that's
This is a good question here.
Yeah.
What kind of job could you apply for once you finish the degree?
that's a fantastic question. I think specifically, I think it'll depend a little bit on the concentration you go down. And I should also preface this with the saying like, and as part of the nano degree, you're allowed to take all of the concentrations. So taking more of them and getting specific instructions, I guess, on each one of those concentrations is gonna help you in basically getting into whatever career job you want to see, whether that's 360 video, 360 media, or Vive, or performance, whatever that is. I would say this nano degree takes you to an intermediate level of prep and VR, and I think it would probably, the types of jobs you would see are maybe something along the lines of, say, like working at a content studio, producing, like, say, I mean, none of this is like, none of these are like, we haven't talked with any of these studios, but like my hunch would be like you could apply it to like stuff like Baobab, you could apply it to Alchemy, a lot of these content studios that are already out there, like those are the type of jobs I think you would be well suited for by the end of this.
Cool. Another question. So looks like we have someone who maybe hasn't done so much VR development. So how would you describe VR and mobile VR?
Okay. They're two different beasts, mobile VR and VR. Mobile VR, like I think the key difference is like with this, you only have the 3 DOF tracking in here. You're not moving around a room. It's not like the Vive that we have set up here, where it's like this gigantic space. And that fundamentally changes, I guess, the way you think about designing specifically for VR, because now you have a person who is just kind of sitting for the most part, or standing. Either way kind of works. VR, like the Vive, or I'm going to say Oculus once it gets touch, and yeah, even like the standing VR with the 2 cameras I think works. But like once that comes out, those platforms are very different because you can get a lot more action out of the player. And so like one of my Master Indy, who's another YouTuber, he made Stormmaster VR, and one of the things he said when building it was when you're designing for VR, or specifically the Vive, I guess, like to really make someone feel immersed in it, you gotta have them moving. Like, and I think that's pretty accurate. Like, if you don't want them like noticing the pixel resolution, and you don't want them like being like, oh, I'm bored type of thing. Like, if you have them active, like that, they're guaranteed not to look at the pixels. And I think that's a pretty cool effect. Like, you will get involved in the games, and then you don't notice it. I think those are probably the core differences. I can go into specifics about them, but like I think that, yeah, that's kind of the gist of that.
Yeah, I think it's a solid explanation. No more questions for now.
All right, sounds good.
Well, I have one though.
All right.
So Unity has their certified developer license, and I think they might be coming out with some course materials for that. Do you think that going through a track within the nano degree would correlate to being able to complete their test for Unity?
I think Matt Sonic, he's also working on the course material, would have a better answer to that. But yeah, I actually haven't taken the certification course. I know there are some questions that are very specific, and we probably don't go over them in the nano degree. I'm not sure how. I mean, I haven't tried out Unity's course material either, so not really sure how to answer that part there. But yeah, it'll help definitely, like as far as like actually getting you somewhere there. But like as far as like their specific prep, not sure.
Okay, cool. So, someone asked if we'll go more into networking. I think that's on the streams. I'm not sure if that's a course question, but if it's a streams question, there's definitely tons of stuff on, that at least use networking.
Yeah. I mean, we have 2 streams that are recorded on networking. We can do more. Like if you have like specific suggestions, post those on our website, and like that's kind of where we like kind of aggregated most of them. And we're slowly going through that list. But yeah, I think that's if there are cool topics that you want to see, like we can definitely do that. I think photon is what we use in the last 2 streams, and it's pretty easy to set up. I think at some point we might just make a template for it and then just post that out there.
Okay. So Max Emmer says that they're supposed to be working right now, but they just wanted to jump in and say hi. Thanks for the tutorial.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We also have another question. Are you going to teach to make assets in the nano degree course?
3D assets, there's nothing currently planned. It could always be added, I think is what I would say to that. But like nothing published so far, and we'll see what happens. I think it's one of those things that like, yeah, you could add it to the degree, but and it might end up in one of the concentrations, but like nothing like specifically for that. Cool. How are we doing on time? 10:50?
Yeah, fine. There's one more question. You may have answered this. They're talking about, are you thinking about a follow-up or more advanced nano degree and degree plus in this field? So Unity /VR seems like that will just be different focuses.
Yeah, that'll be probably part of the concentrations.
Okay.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, I think that we're good to go then.
Sounds good. Yeah, if there are any more questions, we'll probably do a session. I don't know. Whenever we do, actually, like now might be a good time to just take a. No, I'll start. I'll do more scripting, and then we'll take a break, and then I'll answer questions then. I think that sounds like a solid plan.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. So we're here now, and I think when we last left off, we basically were gonna go into the physics. So for this, what we're gonna basically do is we have a rigid body, and that's basically what allows us to interact with the physics simulation. And then there are colliders that which we already actually define on our objects, way at the beginning, which basically defines what we can hit, what we can't hit. And we've already actually kind of touched on it here with the raycast, but let's now actually move our player. So for that, what we're going to need is a public rigid body player without that. So that's the player that we're basically going to apply our forces to. And automatically we're going to get gravity applying to this. So this is just basically to have our player have a force that allows us to swing around. And we're also going to define a private variable here, private bool, no, sorry, not bool, vector3 target. So the target here is what we're going to save right now. It's actually just, let's actually move it here. So target equals it.point, and then we can change this to be target. So once we have that set up, basically what we want to do is save that, because we're going to apply a force in the direction of our target from where our body is. And that basically is going to act as our indication of when we get into get touch, instead of having to apply a physics, a raycast there, we already have our target saved, so we're just going to move towards that. So now that we have that here, all we need to do is just add a line in here that says player.add force, and this is in the direction of, you can do it from either direction of the player or you can do it from the controller. Either way, it doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to do it from the controller's perspective. Like they're close enough that it doesn't matter. Controller. Yep.
For the course, it's self-paced and you don't get lifetime access, right? You can keep paying for access.
That's a good question. As far as access is concerned, the video content starting November 1st, all of the videos that are published right now on, like currently, will be free. So like that's lifetime access. As far as forums and that other stuff, I'm not 100% sure, and I would need to confirm that. But like videos, like yeah, that'll be accessible to anyone starting November 1st, so in about a week. And that's, I mean, that's like honestly like one of the reasons why I'm like super excited about the whole Udacity thing, is like you're not really paying for the videos as much as you're paying for like the community and the mentorship that comes with it. So that I think is really cool. So yeah, sounds good. And so let's just add in our force right now. So controller.transform.position minus target dot, actually no, just target. So what we're doing there is we take where our controller is, where the target is, and we just do some vector subtraction to get a direction, a line direction. I think this is backwards actually, now that I look at it. We'll find out. if I start flying backwards, then it's backwards. And so controller position, target, and that's basically where we're going to be flying towards. I'm just going to go ahead and normalize that and then multiply it by 20f. So 20f is basically, it's an arbitrary number. I think about it in terms of, so gravity is 9.8 meters per second downwards. So if you pulled yourself up with a force of 20, like then that should compensate and apply a force basically of 10 up. Granted, there's also like this horizontal component, or I guess two other components that you're dealing with, that the 20 is split across, but it seemed to feel the most natural when you set it next to gravity. So that's the force there, and then we can just copy this line and put it on the touch side. Just go ahead, add that in. So we add that force. Also, if you have two controllers pulled, that's going to add a force of 40 because both of those controllers is adding in that force, and it really pulls you towards it. So that's normalized, and I think with that we are pretty much set. There's one line in here that I'll add in really quick. This is like a minor thing, but we're just gonna, you can have a boolean for this. I'm just gonna be a little lazy and just make sure that the line is enabled. And basically all that's doing is if the line is enabled, then we're gonna be moving everything. Otherwise, don't even worry about it. I'm also just for that reset that I was talking about earlier, where like the offset could like go off to infinity. You can also just like anytime the player stops, you can just add in. Sorry, not new vector. Vector 2.0. You can add that in, and so that works just as well. So at this point, pretty much set. We just have to make sure everything is in here. I'm gonna go ahead, disable our line renderers. Okay, save that, and let's go ahead and on here let's add a rigid body. Just get the drag off. I'm also gonna add in a box collider. Ugh, I can't remember what I specifically used for the box collider. Let's just take a quick look. Alright, so the box collider here, where is it? I should have written down the numbers I used, but I actually don't even see it. Let me hide the sky scene so if I can see if I can find it. On here. Okay. Is it on the green? Yeah, okay. So there we go. Let's just make this, just make it a 1 by 1 by 1. I think that should be fair. Offset of 0. We're using gravity. We can actually make this offset like 0.5, so it's actually on the bottom here. Put our sky scene back in. Maybe drag this up a little bit so that we are, where is it? Maybe drag this up a little bit so that it just will make sure we're not clipping the actual collider. And then just have to assign a rigid body to it. So just go ahead, drag that in. And yeah, let's just make sure our references are all correct here. So we have collider, rigid body, left controllers on the left, line render on the left, right, and yeah, let's give this a shot. Classic controllers turned off. Come on. This was off. There we go. Oh. At this point, I am not moving as much as I want to be. So come on. Let's see. So now the debugging fun begins. Why am I not moving? So we're adding a force to the player. Let's also just make sure in our scene view we did. Let's go ahead right here. Yeah, so the physics did get applied. We are adding the force here. We also do it when we get touched down. Get touches. This is all getting applied. I mean, we see it getting applied. Let's try a really big force just to see if I'm doing anything. Oh, it could also be the case that that was backwards. Yep, it is backwards. I would explain it. So let's fix that really quickly. Just do this. So it's from target. to there, just drop this to 20, 20, and then just copy this into our add force over here. Okay, so now it's on. I should now move myself forward. There we go. Where do I want it to go? Let's go down here. You're right. I really like this asset, and then I also really like the swinging feeling. Swoop. And yeah, I'm not. Ow. Oh, this is a bug. This is a fun bug. You never. So one thing you want to make sure on your rigid bodies, and I forgot this, but the reason we are spinning is actually because on the rigid body, when you detect collisions. Oh yeah, you're seeing that.
Just see the
It's like
video
wee.
I can't believe you went through that and didn't throw up.
Nah, I'm pretty. I have a rock solid stomach. But whenever you're debugging stuff like that, you always when you put a rigid body on the player, you're gonna want to make sure you add these constraints in, specifically on the rotation. So make sure that's in, and then you're guaranteed not to simulate really bad stuff like that. So now that we have that, let's try that again and make sure I don't crash into this thing. So now let's go fight that island again. So now if I hit it, yeah. So there's no crashing or anything like that. So now let's go ahead and see if I can. So one thing that might make it a little harder to, so there are a couple fixes I'll just add really quick. So the one thing is so one thing is we added this collider right in here, and we actually want to ignore raycast onto that so that we actually don't raycast and accidentally hit our own collider, because that could be annoying. So for that, we just have to set our layer here, and Unity conveniently provides an ignore raycast layer. So let's just quickly go ahead and add that in. The other thing we want to do is, if you want this kind of like slip and slide type of feel to it, so that you like slide up these rocks, slide onto the clouds, etc., etc., you can actually go ahead here, create a physics material. Let's call it slip and slide. And for this specifically, drop the friction values down to like 0.1, 0.2, and we will take the minimum friction value. So basically actually let me pull that up again. So basically right here, what we're just saying is on the player, what we're going to do is say your static friction is set to 1, your dynamic friction set to 2, so that, or actually sorry, dynamic should be even lower. You can do like 0.1 here, 0.2 here. And so if you're moving, what will happen is you have a very low friction, so you can keep moving across that rock. And when you set the friction combination to minimum, so every collider in Unity will basically have that physics material. So by default, like every one of these guys here has a friction of like 0.5, which is really high. And so when we say set it to the minimum, whenever we have those physics interactions, what will happen is the friction combination will just choose whatever the minimum is, which is, in our case, 0.1 or 0.2. So all we have to do here is just go ahead and apply that. So let's do that to slip and slide. And so now it should feel a lot slippery. So yeah, you can see that we're like sliding across this thing, even if we don't want to. Bye-bye. The problem of like that mesh not existing is that it's like I want to pull myself forward, but I can't. So yeah, so now let's see if I can actually get onto this thing. This should pull me up. Yeah, so we're kind of slipping up this whole thing. this was so in Windlands. There we go. So in Windlands they also have the trackpad motion, which that honestly gets me more motion sick than the actual like swinging.
What's the motion?
So you can walk in Windlands using the
Oh,
trackpad here,
Yeah.
and that just feels really unnatural to
Yeah,
me.
it doesn't. That's like a mistake too. Now you bring it up.
Yeah.
Someone has an interesting question in here.
Yep.
A design question is: can you add physics so that you can pull or reel yourself in using the velocity of the controllers?
That's actually already built in. So,
Oh, is it? Cool.
so when I because it's velocity inherently goes into position, so it's always tracking your position. Or sorry, actually that's not true. So we haven't used it here. You can add it specifically. I guess instead of this 20F, if you have it scale based on the position of your controller, then that becomes kind of part of the velocity of like how fast you're moving it around.
The position, not the velocity.
Yeah, because velocity inherently goes into position, right?
Oh, because it's running in the update.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
which reminds me, I should also have changed this to fixed
Yeah,
update.
for physics.
Yeah, if
Probably
you're
explain
using
that.
any physics at all, you definitely want to use fixed update because that's before any physics. Before or after? No, right before any physics calculations are applied. So that's an important thing. Update can go before or after the physics gets applied.
I wonder how could we make it so that you shoot out a line, but you just hang until you pull.
Oh, I see.
That's a little more complicated.
It's a little more complicated. Also,
Because the tough part is you have to have a way to.
but you wouldn't also, I guess, like, oh, I guess you'd be applying the force, and then you'd have gravity take over. You could do that. Like,
But
you,
how would you keep the user like still and swinging around something?
oh, I guess you just wouldn't apply a force right here.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't be a constant force. You'd have some physics, or you'd have some calculations of like, based on like how much my controller is moving as I'm holding this down, or not holding it down. Yeah, I guess it would be more along the lines of like, let's like keep this here, let's keep this line here, and then constantly just be applying a tension force, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, definitely that'd be a cool extension. So if anyone wants to try that
Yeah.
out, it's too much to do probably by the end of this stream. But someone should try that. It would be really cool.
Yeah. That I think there are things you could do. Like the thing like that I think would get me a bit more motion sick. The thing that doesn't get me motion sick with this is the fact that I'm like having my controllers kind of moving around up in the air. This is the same thing that happened with the climbing tutorial we did. What ends up happening is like because you're moving your hands, my brain mentally thinks like, oh, I'm doing an action, and I can compensate for the motion mentally, even if my like vestibular system doesn't feel it, because I guess your head is also like shaking in correspondence to that. Whereas if you like are not doing an action and moving you, I feel like that tends to induce more motion sick, and that's I think one of the reasons why on the trackpad, even like yes, it's like my thumb moving, but that still feels a little weird to me. And I don't know if that's I think one of those interesting areas of research that people need to do, like what exactly is actually causing motion sick. No one really knows the answer to that. We know of like things like, and I think Hassan has been sharing some of the stuff on like how if you decrease the field of view, that like helps to alleviate that. But like we still don't know why. I mean, the guess is that because you reduce the field of view, it feels less real. And if it's less real, it's like your brain's like, oh, okay, well, I guess this isn't actually happening to me, and then ignores that. But we don't know why.
Yeah.
And you have all of the links. Or at least I've been seeing you share all the links, and at least up on the screen, which I think is really cool. I really like that that's back there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like around 11:10 now. We could do a demo. I can answer more Udacity questions while that's happening.
So we could take this break. Yeah, let's do a demo, and then there's one question that we should also answer from a previous stream.
Okay. Let me classic Steam updating itself. At the most, it always does this. But what are you feeling about trying? That's the real question.
Oh, the sword one.
All right, we'll do
Sword
Swordmaster because I already mentioned it in the stream anyways, and I really like it. Whenever it actually finishes updating. But yeah, I mean, also like I guess while we're like setting up this demo, like post in the chat what you would want to see as I guess an extension, because like we do have time until like 12. We've like kind of dedicated the clock. We can also end early, but like if there are cool stuff you want to see, like I mean, we've already done the video on like how you do the vignetting, but if we want to add that in, we could do that. I'd have to like remember that because I didn't add it before, which I think will be an interesting challenge, but
Yeah.
we can make it happen. We can make it happen. Steam, where are you? Come on, buddy. There we go. When did I open? Oh, I haven't opened Steam in a while. I think that would be why. Oh yeah, I haven't opened it since last stream. All right, let's go. Oh, he does have an update. That's cool. All right, well, we'll see when that's a fast update. Cool. Play a game.
So once I pop in there, there's a specific question for you.
All right.
That you should answer.
It's all you.
Are we good? Yeah. Daniel has a question on a previous stream from Mirror.
Scroll down.
Also, who in the stream has tried Swordmaster?
Oh yeah.
Another question.
Who has tried this? Because I'll be frank. It's like it's once you get through the levels, it's like it kind of gets a little repetitive. But I think it's still a really cool concept, and it gets you engaged. I think that's the really cool part about it. Should be relatively intuitive, I think. Question might be able to help building the I think so. Abdo was actually the one that did the Unreal Portal tutorial. So, I mean, I can tell you what to do with the HTC stuff, but as far as I guess as far as the Unreal side, I don't actually know. I watched the tutorial, and it's actually, I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in there, especially on the material side, and I think that's where Unreal really shines. But yeah, I guess if you have any specific questions on that, hit up Abdo. Level 1. He's behind you. He's behind you.
Oh, what? This is the problem with starting straight off and expert. How do I hit him, please?
You gotta. So you're using the rapier, so you gotta stab or slash him. Either way works.
I don't have a shield.
No, I haven't. I unlocked everything on my desktop. I haven't unlocked everything on this. I'll say I really love the spectator mode on this. I think it's how it should be. It does require, I guess, a little extra rendering, which is probably the hard part. But oh, you got Rex.
Okay, maybe I should try novice first. What happens when you jump straight to expert?
This is what happened on Node also. They went straight to expert and then got Rex. It's actually, I've never found expert that much harder, but I actually don't know what the difference is, to be honest.
How do I block it when you stab?
You block the sword. Stab, stab, stab. you gotta stab with conviction. It depends on how far.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, like the stronger you hit him, the more damage it does.
Oh, that one hurt him.
Yeah. Woo. Yeah. So the way this works is you basically have 2 lives. So if you get hit when it's red, that's when you die. So you can get hit infinitely as long as you're not red when you get hit. Just let me hop into the chat and see what's happening here.
Pretty nice.
Yeah.
I wish I had a shield.
You can do. I haven't unlocked it, but there is dual wielding, which I think is really cool. I'm gonna pretend to be Hassan in the chat right now.
Yeah, I'm winning the battle. Gathering.
Nice. For Joe, as far as I guess your question about materials, I think you obviously want to optimize them. Like having them depend directly on dynamic lights will lead to low performance, and you don't really want that. You can use, I mean, the lab render I think is a really good approach to that, because that's a bit more optimized as far as materials are concerned. And then you also, I think the real thing, if you can, like say in this environment, not necessarily with like the enemies, you can film them afterwards.
Yeah, that's game. Just one.
Yeah, dude. And once you get the hang of it, it's actually not that bad. But the trick is getting.
Oh, got it.
Nice.
Dude, I'm getting way better.
You have hope to kill. Yeah, but like I think the real thing you want to do is baked lighting. Baked lighting will really alleviate as much of the performance hits you might encounter. I think you have a little more leeway on PC VR, but still keep in mind that's for sure. I mean, obviously, and I guess baked lighting also goes along the lines of using unlit textures. So if you use as many unlit textures as you can, and if the quality looks as good as you want it to, then in that case you're pretty much set and good to go. The trick really comes in if you have standard PBR textures, then you have to do the baking. But if you can get away with as many unlit things as possible, then that just saves you a lot of time. And also for lighting, I think if you use emissive textures, those tend to be less of a hit on performance. So that's also something. Yeah, you're getting the hang of it, like
Yeah,
really
dude,
fast.
I'm on expert mode.
There you go. Yeah, expert. There's on my desktop I unlocked everything, and there's legendary mode also. But that one is definitely not nearly as complicated. No, you're wrecking. There's also sound effects, but I didn't get these in headphones, which kind of sucks.
Like, you would think that we're fighting that would be really hard to get the trap.
Yeah, no, that's why I like it a lot. You did a really nice job.
Like, a good amount of realism, not
Swordmaster VR. Yep.
Alright, dude.
Dude, you got that expert medal. Nice.
Yeah.
Did I have it already?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. There's a novice one. You gotta step your game up.
I told you. I have legendary medals.
I didn't see legendary.
I don't have it on this because
yeah,
the achievements
right.
are saved on like on the account. But desktop wise, it's legit.
How are we doing on questions?
I was answering one and then got distracted and went overboard.
Yeah, there was one about the mirrors.
Yeah, so I answered that. That was Abdo. Abdo did that tutorial actually, so he should be in the chat hopefully answering that.
I also heard a little bit about the materials one. I would just really emphasize like a lot of that also varies based off if it's mobile or not. We talked about that a little bit earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. Materials make a lot more difference in mobile than in PC VR, that's for sure.
The processing effects is interesting too. Did you talk about that?
No, like you mean After Effects?
Yeah, like After Effects.
Oh yeah.
Processing stuff.
I actually don't know how much of a performance. I know there is a big performance hit because it's like afterwards in the rendering pipeline, like especially with like vignetting, which is what we do for like shrinking the field of view. But I don't know how bad of a performance hit that is.
So I think that there's two problems that I've seen with post-processing. First, like it can be a huge performance hit depending on what it is.
Yeah.
But then there's also some that just like don't make that much sense to do in VR.
Yeah.
Or like just After Effect types of things to add. Like I'm trying to think of a good example. Are light flares considered post-processing or After Effects? Or like
The way Unity
smudges?
handles them is it can and can't be.
Well, that's an example of something that like, yeah, I mean it's a good example of it makes a lot of sense in a movie or a game, but when you try it in VR, like you can do it without a performance hit, but it just doesn't look good to have a light flare.
Yeah.
Because I tried it. I was actually creating a project where I wanted to model the sun,
Mhm.
and so I put a flare on it, and I thought that that would make a lot of sense, but the sun only has a flare when you like look at it with a camera or when you take a picture of
Oh, I
it.
see.
But when you try to actually look at something really bright with your eyes, there's not a flare, it's just like a blinding light. It's like a difference in perception. So like in movies and
Interesting.
games, we use flares for lights because
Yeah.
that's how cameras and like films will capture it.
Yeah.
But with our eyes, like that effect's not there. So that's another
that's
thing
interesting.
to watch out for.
I've never actually tried to do that, so
Yeah, it looks really odd.
that's good to know. Let's see. So yeah, actually at this point we've pretty much gotten to the point of where we we were at the demo scene. Like I said, there's actually not how much code did we write? We wrote maybe 20, 30 lines. It's not a ridiculous amount, and I think that's like the kind of cool part about it.
So if this says lens flare is counted as post-processing
In UE.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's see, if we try to add a lens flare.
It's just odd because like you never actually see that in real life, but like a camera captures it.
Yeah. Let's see, where is the flare and lens flare? So if we call this test flare, let's play around with it because we got time. Elements. Sure. Directional light. Let's drop a flare in here. What does this look like now? Or do you know if the flare exists in?
I think it might have been the standard asset.
So I added in a flare, but I don't know if it exists in the scene view or I have to test it out in the game view. Let's see.
I don't remember. It's a while ago.
Oh,
Where is the flare that you added?
Added on the directional light.
Okay. Let me check it out.
See anything? I don't know what. Let me see if I can find the light. See anything? Anything that could look like a flare? Actually, maybe there is a flare on this one. I'm not 100% sure.
It's not, or I don't know.
I think there is a. It feels really weird, but I think there is a flare on this one.
I wonder if
We can make
there's
it
a way
bigger.
to make it bigger. Can I just scale the light? Do you think that'll work? What does that even do?
Click on the test flare. There are some options there.
Texture. What do you want to try here?
I don't know.
Oh wait, there's no texture on it though.
Oh, with that. Okay. Just add something. Or maybe we gotta let's import and maybe standard assets on it.
On here? Can I stop this?
Go for it. Ooh, I'm gonna grab
I
some
think
water.
it's on effects. Yeah. Yeah, so hopefully we can get this working. You could also take my word for it. One day I took a picture of the sun, and then I looked at the sun to try to see what the difference would be. It's a very stupid experiment, but also informative.
Sometimes it makes sense to see what the real world or the real world and virtual equivalents are.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
So Oh, you have the thing
Yeah.
here. I think this should work. Still not sure if you're gonna be able to see it in editor.
Well, let's
But
find out.
it's on there. Oh, it's not there?
There we go.
Oh.
No.
Not showing up. I wonder, I'm not sure if it can go on a directional light.
I feel like it would though, because that's the sun.
Let's see if it will go. Also, where's the player?
Player is on one.
Let's try to spawn it closer, like somewhere obvious, so that
Alright, so let's
we know where to look for it.
let's add a point light around here-ish. I don't remember how many pixel lights I set up, but let's go maybe here. Sure. And then let's add our flare. And let's make sure. So what is
Oh, color. Size? Maybe we can make it bigger.
no, that's array size. This size.
Yeah.
10?
Yeah, and change the color maybe to. Yeah.
Don't use that. Sure, let's try that out. Part of the fun of experimenting with Unity.
Yeah.
What works? Oh, I see something.
Yeah, it's there.
Really weird
It's
shape.
small, but yeah, that's what it generally looks like. So,
Let me see if I can pull myself.
yeah, try to go closer to it. Yeah, so that's an example of something where like you would definitely see that in like a game as a muzzle flash, or on a movie as a muzzle flash, or like a light. But seeing that in real life, like it should feel a little bit weird. It felt weird when I demoed it.
It feels like a star almost. Like,
Yeah.
that's the really weird part. I don't know. What does this look like in editor?
It's just a cross, pretty
Yeah.
much, like a plus sign.
I mean, the stereo is right on it, which is cool. But I don't see the other one, which is weird. Ooh.
Did we get through already building all the Spiderman stuff?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay, cool. So I wanted to add in posting a video on the way that like some places have approached. Oh wait, the way that some places have approached like fighting VR sickness from too much motion. We talked about like vignetting before. But this is just a video that shows some of the like research behind it.
Go ahead, do that. Save there.
I can't.
I invented fire. I wish I could say that. I invented virtual fire. There we go. It's like oh bright star right in my face.
I can't put the web link in.
You want us? What is this called? Combating VR sickness
through subtle dynamic field of view modification.
Yeah, this is what I based the vignetting tutorial on. Combating VR sickness with subtle something. This guy. Let's go ahead. Paste that in.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Powers of I should add you as admin, then you can post that stuff.
Yeah, but for people who like maybe haven't worked with VR too much, like a big cause of why you get sick in VR is when you're moving your eyes are perceiving that you're moving, but your body's not feeling it, and that disconnect can cause motion sickness. I think the formal term for it is vection, and so there's a lot of research about how to minimize that. And one thing that has been done that Vasant showed in another, or FuseMan showed in another tutorial, was you can add a vignette or basically like close down on their peripheral vision of the user so that they perceive less motion and get less sick. So check out that video if you're interested in learning more.
Let's see. Oh wait, we already have effects. So then I can't remember. Oh yeah, it's in image effects. So specifically, yeah, here it is. So if you want to add in, let's see if we can do this right now. Since we have some time, I'm gonna go and see if I can emulate what I did in the motion sickness tutorial. But there's this, and then I think if yeah, there we go. So yeah, so we imported in standard assets, image effects. There's a vignetting script in there. That's a post process, and you can see in the game view we can basically increase, decrease the vignetting components. I don't remember the exact map we used. We basically, based on the velocity, you can change this vignetting property to be 0 to basically, what is it, 0 to 1, and then you set some limits basically. So like if you're traveling over some certain speed, you're gonna want to do like, say, I don't know, I think 0.5, 0.6 was a reasonable number that you want to interpolate between, and then you just kind of cap it there.
Is that done as like, you said it's a post process, the camera
Yeah.
effect? Okay, cool. Another way that I've seen it done, and the video does it this way, is to just have a like a box,
Yeah.
a plane that you're scaling up and down if you have to worry about performance for any reason.
Yeah. I feel like this is cheaper though.
Yeah, I'm
My
not
guess
sure.
is this is cheaper.
It
I mean,
should
we
be.
could do
It
some
depends
perks
on how it handles the rest of the pixels. Like, is it drawing them and then drawing over them?
Oh, that's a good point.
Or is it just
it's-
not drawing them? Like, that's what we would have to
I think
test.
it's a post process, so it's drawing everything and then it does this black overlay over it, which means, yeah, so everything like is getting rendered and then you add an overlay.
If
so
we
like
could make it so that it doesn't draw the ones, that could be pretty solid.
yeah,
It
I guess
just
that's
draws
what like
black.
foveated rendering. It's like a foveated rendering type
Yeah.
of technique, right?
Mhm.
Which you could do with a pre-process. Like if you like limit the number of pixels that it's supposed to calculate on, like that could be a thing.
Yeah.
It's not something I've actually experimented with, but I think it could work.
Yeah.
So let's see if I can actually, off the top of my head, add something in here based on velocity. Let's see. It's like, let's just call this motion sickness. Another script. Go in here. Sure, we're gonna reload everything. Close this because we don't need it. This, we're just gonna get the reference to the player. And the reason we want the rigid body here would be because we want the velocity values. And I think here specifically, let's get rid of that. We can be an update here because we're just reading the velocity, so it doesn't matter too much. You only want to use fixed update really if you're like writing to velocity. And then I guess we also want the public vin. What is? Oh, I have to import it in. I think it's using Unity engine dot image effects, or is this guy? Let's pop open that script just to make sure what the namespace of that thing is. Image effects, scripts. This is in Unity standard assets dot image effects, so we're using that. Using this guy. Cool. So now I should be able to get in, yeah. So we want access to that. Let's call call it V for now, and then all we're going to say is vignette dot what is that variable? Camera blur, spread. No, none of this is stuff I want. Not the blur. I think, oh, was it chromatic aberration? Parts of coding live when you can prep it. It's always interesting. Oh, I think it was intensity. So if I set this to, I don't know, 1F, let's see what happens. Just to make sure I'm not going crazy with it, or too crazy at least. Let's put the script on here. Fine. Motion sickness, and then we just have to draw a rigid body and our vignette onto that guy, and we'll set the vignette to 0. There we go. So in theory now, if intensity, okay, it's not based on intensity. Oh wait, no, it is, but I don't see it. Let's check the headset really fast. No, I see everything in here. The vignette is set to 1. That's strange. How did we get an in-editor effect without getting a...
Don't know.
So it gets set to 1,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't actually see the like.
Oh, it's
That's
in
really
the
bizarre.
editor, but
It says 1 here, but it doesn't actually apply it.
yeah.
I forget what did I do to get around that.
This is on the camera rig, right?
Yeah. It's like at this point we're kind of playing around, so I don't feel too bad if we can't figure it out. But
There's not any. I
I'm
haven't seen
surprised
any
that we see the effect, but we don't actually get it in the HMD. That's, I think, the part that's kind of surprising me.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a plane or a 3D object that we were manipulating, I would guess that it was just getting lost on the camera, but this being a processing effect
Yeah.
makes me think that that's not what's going on.
It's someone.
Someone says that it
Yes,
needs
we have
to
it.
be on the camera eye, not the head.
Oh, that's a good point. Let's try that. Copy.
Oh, okay. That might be it.
Let's find out. Vignetting. And then I just need to drag that reference. Alright, let's try this out now. Hey, it works. Nice. Who said that? Brandon, you're awesome. Shout out to Brandon for pointing that out. It's like some of these effects, it's just like trial and error. It's like, well, I guess I have to go to the documentation to figure out why it's not working. But okay, cool. So now that we have that, let's just quickly just do it based on velocity. So we're gonna cap it. We're just gonna add some arbitrary numbers in here, but it's gonna be like, so what do we want? We want a value from 0 to 0.6, and if your velocity is greater than, so if your velocity is greater than 20, we cap the parameter to like 0.6, otherwise it's going to be scaled based on that. So let's just create a variable for max speed, public const float max speed equals, I don't know, let's do 10f just for testing, and then in here we're just going to have a float for our scale, call this 0f initially, and if player dot velocity dot magnitude is greater than 10f, then we're going to say that the scale is going to be 0.6f. Otherwise, actually, so we're going to do here, we're just going to initialize scale to be player dot velocity divided by magnitude divided by max speed. I should be using max speed. So like we define the constants and then I don't actually use them.
I have a video to add to the
Cool.
when you're ready.
Yeah, and then we're also just gonna do multiply by 0.6f just to scale it down. We'll also add a constant for that. Let's see, max limit. And I'm just making numbers off the top of my head. If you want more suitable numbers, check out the video that we posted on how to actually do this. But this is just me spitballing. Let's add that in here, and then just call this based on scale. That should do it. I mean, we can change the scales and stuff, but okay, so what's the video?
So look up 5 design techniques for reducing simulator sickness.
5 design techniques for reducing, that should be good enough.
Yep, that one. So this goes over, as it says, 5 techniques for reducing sickness. Some of them we've already talked about, but definitely good to check out if you're curious.
Well, now I'm curious. What did they say?
So method 1 was reducing non-forward movement. Not really sure why non-forward movement makes us more sick than other types. Maybe because we're used to moving forward? I'm not sure.
That's not, well,
It doesn't seem strong enough.
yeah, I don't,
But
that's
the
okay.
first method. The second is reducing vection, so don't
Sure.
make them feel like they're moving.
Yep.
Third is related, reducing accelerations.
Yep.
Accelerations make them feel like they're
Which
moving.
we are abusing totally in this.
Yeah. Reducing camera yaw, so I think that's like,
Oh, you should never rotate the head.
yeah.
Like, I was like, that's a no-no. Just do not rotate that head.
The last one was adding a static reference frame, which we're sort of doing with the vignetting, but also like if you're if it's a flight simulation, like adding a cockpit
Yeah.
around them will give them something.
True, yeah.
to have
And again,
around.
I mean, we're just guessing that those help. I don't actually know why they help.
There's totally research though that people like could look up if you're interested. I don't think the video explains all of it.
All right, let's see like how we're doing on this though. That's what I want to know. Come on, controller, show up. Oh, I see the vignetting. It's working. I don't know why I'm missing a controller. Yeah, 0.6 seems about right because you kind of notice it, but not really. Yeah, and as I start falling, and it works nicely. You could obviously like add more. You can totally add more vignetting and have it lerp instead of based on where it currently is to like where it needs to be. I'm just like automatic. I'm doing the fast bad approach, which is like instantly doing it. But you can slow it down, and I think that would help a lot and make it less noticeable. But it works for here totally. And yeah, that is definitely a way to help. That's for sure. I mean, you wanna try it out?
Yeah, sure. I was getting into a nerdy science conversation about why we feel motion.
Yeah, dude. Oh, okay. Now
What's gonna happen to me? What am I?
well, start
being a
moving.
guinea pig for? Oh, nice. the vignetting is added in.
Yeah.
Cool, dude.
It's like, what am I getting big anymore?
I feel cured. of
You
all
feel.
things. I'm gonna live forever, dude. It's the fountain of youth. It cures all sickness, even aging.
But yeah, it's in
pretty-
there.
And it's subtle too.
This one's pretty subtle. Like you can definitely notice it on the screen right now, but like in VR when you add it in, it's a lot more subtle, which I think is a really interesting part about it.
And what I was reading on the research is that it's important for it to be subtle too.
Yeah.
Because of like immersion stuff. Like you don't want them to see it too much.
Yeah. But I think it definitely does. It helps.
Yeah. I mean, there are research study, like they tried it with a few people and they found that it helps too. It also worked very well on Eagle Flight.
Oh yeah, yeah. You love Eagle Flight.
Yeah, so good.
I think it's because you were wrecking people. Yeah. I mean, if there's other questions, happy to talk about it. But I think as of like this, like we've gone above and beyond what we the demo scene that we'd initially planned out. I'm also gonna. I think I gave the a wrong model here, but Abda is gonna kill me if I point this out. But these trees are blue here for whatever reason. The model, I think when it imported into Unity, the model, the materials didn't map correctly. So we can if you don't want blue trees, I kind of like them. I'm not gonna lie. But if you don't want blue trees, you can just add in a material right there. I don't know what the right color is supposed to be, but just click on the island and just add in whatever flavor of green you want, and you'll have that. So I'm gonna save that, and I think other than that, most of the island is pretty much like this is a really cool asset, and just in case you're wondering like where, like we didn't actually build all of this for the stream. This actually came out of our, let me zoom out here. This actually came out of a game we made. It was the first game Abdo and I worked on together, called Naviland. It's on sideload. I mean, it wasn't the most optimized game in the world. Like it's designed, there's no tutorial or anything like that. We kind of just dump you into the game. But it's something like me and Abdo are like pretty proud of, and that's where all these assets are coming from. And now we're repurposing them here for this stream, and it's like almost like we made. I guess we put it out on sideload about like January of this year, so we're getting close to a month, and like that I think is really cool. And it's like there's like a sense of nostalgia that comes with it, because like yeah, you look at these assets and it's like yeah, we've been like in this VR space like actively working on it for like almost over a year now, and like that's like I've definitely worked on VR a lot more than that, but like within Unity, like yeah, I don't know, it's like this really cool feeling of like you get to work on all of this cool stuff and it never gets old, like even after like years and years of working on it. And then that, I think, yeah, that's like the really cool part about it. But yeah, are there any other questions that are kind of popping up?
No, we're just kind of having a discussion around motion sickness in the chat. There aren't
It's a big
any
topic.
outstanding questions though. Yeah, it's really exciting stuff, and I think something that people neglect is that like VR for the first time is being consumerized now.
Yeah.
The research on it has been being done since like 50s and 60s, maybe even longer. So if you look
Yeah.
up like IEEE stuff or stuff from SIGGRAPH, there's tons of papers about how to make people not get sick. So it's cool to talk
I mean, it
about.
was a bigger issue back in the 1950s and 60s when they didn't have stuff that updated at 90 frames per second. Like, motion sickness was definitely a big deal back then, and now it's still a big deal, but it's crazy that it's so much less of an issue. Like, we could get through like something like this and not instantly throw up, right?
Yeah.
Like with like the acceleration. Now you can add like this vignetting and all that cool stuff, and it doesn't feel nearly as bad. So yeah, but I think I'm just gonna I'm gonna spend some time swinging around for a little bit, and then if there's no other questions that pop up, then I think we can call it a stream. Also, here we at SVVR there was a meetup on Thursday where one of the questions that we polled the audience on was how many people had PlayStation VR. So I'm kind of curious how many people in the stream right now have PlayStation VRs. We have one. I don't know if can they see it in the stream? It's probably kind of small. See what PSVR back there?
I don't think so.
Let's pull it out.
I wish we could have like a shimmering effect.
Yeah.
Or da 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 da.
But yeah, there's one here. But so I'm curious how many people in the stream have PlayStation VRs, because I think that's the one that a lot of people have been kind of almost looking towards as like quote unquote the saving grace of VR, and that it'll get into many consumers' hands from like a gaming perspective. But I mean, I personally don't have one. I might get one. I don't know. I still have to decide yet. Let's see if we can. I'm gonna just swing around here a little bit. I don't know which how to glide around it. Whoosh. It just feels so clean to do this.
How is tracking when you stand up with PSVR? It shouldn't be able to track that, right?
What do you mean?
Is it tracking the 3 degrees of like
Yeah.
XYZ? Like
What
you can
if
move
you're
your
plugged
head?
into a PlayStation 4? Yeah,
Oh,
with the
okay.
cameras.
I thought that it was just doing rotations.
That's the cool part. Like it's like this middle ground that does positional
Wait,
stuff.
you did try it?
I tried it 2 years ago when it was the Morpheus.
Okay. One of the questions was like how is tracking when you stand up?
I mean, I personally haven't tried it since 2 years ago. We have it sitting here, or SVVR does, but there's no PlayStation 4 to power it. There's a PlayStation 3 which you can use with cinema mode, but that'll only do the 3 degrees of tracking. But if you want the positional, you have to plug it into a PlayStation 4.
Apparently, there's this one thing that we can try if we really want to get sick.
What do we want to try?
No limits.
What is it?
Made a few people sick.
On
It's a-
Steam?
Oh, it looks like it's a roller coaster.
Oh, yeah. Roller coasters without vignetting, they cause sickness pretty badly. No, I don't want to fall off the cloud.
But they still have the chance to do the thing where they could at least put a seat in like your peripheral. I wonder if that would make it better.
This feels so. I love flying around and crashing into clouds.
How good is the positional tracking? Standing? Is there positional tracking? I guess there has to be if it's tracking that you can stand up.
Yeah.
Can you walk around?
So here's the interesting thing. And maybe we just. Yeah, the cable's way too short. So see, you can see I'm already pulling the box.
Yeah.
That's like you have.
But if you walk, does it detect it?
Well, when plugged into a PS4, yeah.
So they probably did that as like a design decision.
Oh yeah, that's very much a design decision to make you stop.
They could have made it as long as they wanted. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think there is tracking issues still with it that they don't want you far away from the cameras. They're like, no, stay in this little box right here.
That's pretty
And,
clever that they did that. What
yeah.
type of cord is that? We can't make one. We just
No,
gotta
it's
go
a
to-
proprietary cord.
We need to go to the EE department.
Yeah, we can hack it together. I think that's the only way you can do it, right? Because it's proprietary.
We could try it, dude. Next live.
Next live stream, where
Hardware
instead of Unity, we're going into the. That could be interesting. If I had the EE skills, I would do it. Yeah. Cool.
PS4, he's not here, let's do it.
I'm sure he'll appreciate it. Cool. Well, we're almost at 2 hours, so
Yeah, no
I think
questions.
I'm in the chat. I should be around for a little longer. I'm gonna make sure to actually get a copy of it because it drives me crazy that YouTube deletes it because there's like some cool conversations that go on,
Oh yeah.
and it's like, why can't you at least put in the comments like.
This is a good comment. I bet Sony uses cable DRM.
That's great. Who said that? York.
Eora?
That's fantastic. Cable DRM. That's the new catchphrase for PSVR. Cool. But then we'll leave the chat open for a little bit longer, and we'll be in there. If you have questions about this or Udacity or SVVR, all of that good stuff, put it there. We'll be answering for the next few minutes. And thanks for watching. And you can follow us on social media. I think SVVR put their social stuff there as well. Subscribe to YouTube. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks again. This has been FuseMan. I'm signing out. See you guys next week.